big rows over Home Secretary Suella Braverman and her emails. But actually, I think most people, sensible people, not the media and the Labour Party, apparently, are actually focused on there's a whole invasion. And yes, let's use that word when a load of tens of thousands of people come to this country who are not welcome, not wanted here, and not invited here. Then, yeah, I would call that an invasion. But Rishi Sunak said yesterday that the UK is a compassionate country. This after criticism of Suella Braverman over her rhetoric over the illegal migrants. She was accused of using inflammatory language. But we've got some developments in terms of what actually might happen to those migrants. The Times reporting today that the Home Office is looking at Albanian migrants being deported before they can appeal against rejected asylum claims under radical new plans, and also a bid to revamp the Slavery Act to halt the tide of migrants. Let's talk about this with Steve Crawshaw. He's Director of Policy and Advocacy at Freedom from Torture. Good morning to you.
Good morning to you.
Thank you very much indeed. I mean, it's interesting we're talking to a guest, from a wonderful charity doing amazing work to help people who are genuine victims of torture and persecution. There will be people getting on those dinghies in France to come to the UK who are genuine victims, genuine asylum seekers. But I'm sorry, Suella Braverman's right, isn't she, when she says, we have to accept that the majority of people getting on those boats now are not people fleeing persecution. They're economic migrants or part of criminal gangs. They're mostly coming from Albania now, which is not even a war-torn country. Are we focusing our concerns at the wrong people?
Yeah. Well, thank you for the words about freedom from torture. And you're right. That's the people who come through our doors, who've suffered torture and then rebuilding their lives, but also having huge difficulties very often in persuading the Home Office to accept what's happened, even when that's absolutely clearly documented. So you talk about the they, and the government constantly talks about the they as though everyone is gaming the system in some ways. We need to remember that the government itself, under its own rules, more than 3/4 of those who come through are accepted as genuine asylum seekers. And then, of course, they go on, they become refugees, they go on to give a lot back to this country.
I'm sorry. You have no basis for making... No, Steve.
Yeah.
You have no basis for making that claim. They give a lot back. You've no basis for making that claim.
Well, I think that we're talking about people who, yes, I have from the people I know, and I'm sure you know people who've been refugees as well. No, yes. People do give back. But the point, if you're looking just at the documentable bit, according to the government's own basis of judging, the great majority are people who are fleeing. Traditionally, now, we've seen this Albanian spike now, and there are a lot of reasons around that. But the ones we've seen highest, topping the league tables again and again, is, for example, Iran or Afghanistan. Iran, we know how terrible the situation is. That's traditionally been, until now, the top of that league table. How can one suggest that people in Iran are not fleeing terrible things? Everyone is seeing on their television screens. And I think what the government is trying to do is make a disconnect between those real human beings, including some of my colleagues are torture survivors from Iran themselves, and are feeling deeply both troubled and inspired by the protests. The government tries to make a difference between what they're fleeing and then suddenly turns them into this blurry mass that are not really human beings.
That is an issue. But you said there 3/4 of these asylum applicants are accepted as genuine asylum seekers. Now, the interesting thing is, in terms of asylum seekers from similar countries, ratios, other countries in Europe, including Germany, regarded, basically Angela Merkel, come on in, anyone who wants to arrive here back in 2015, created a lot of problems for other European countries and indeed her own countrymen and women as well, it would appear, in terms of what things have transpired since then. But they don't accept anything like the same rate. Unless we are uniquely getting people who are far more troubled, we just have a different basis on which we are accepting these people. Many of these people may be...
I'm sure you're aware, and I think viewers are probably aware, Germany and France both take more than twice...
They don't accept it. No, Steve, I hear this point made all the time. I'm saying they do not approve those asylum seekers at the same rate. The only reason Germany and France take more people is because they're foolish enough to have completely open borders. They don't really have a choice.
No, so what happens is that they have the same processes, and the approval rates are different for different nationalities.
But massively different.
The point is they are leaning in, as the former German Chancellor said, Angela Merkel, we can make this work. And that's what we need to try to do, is to work together to try to make this work, looking at the terrible suffering in Iran, in Afghanistan, all these different places, rather than starting from the problem of let's just push back and it's somebody else's problem.
I think
where already the other countries are doing more than we are. So
they're doing more than
over and above.
Look, Poland's doing more than we are for Ukraine because they're on the border. I mean, come on, we've got to be realistic about this.
But France and Germany are not. They're next door to us.
But they've got open borders the whole way from all these other countries. Look, the thing is here, you've got this very big issue where there are loads of people around the world facing persecution, and we have a duty of care. I understand that. However, do they have to come and claim asylum here? Are there countries nearby which are more likely they could take them as well? But also, how many of these people do we want to take? Do we want to have a cap on the number of people, or is anybody? So, do we take every woman who's subjugated in Iran? Do we take everyone? Do we take everyone from Afghanistan? How many people do we take?
Yeah. I think what we need to start the problem is that, which everyone can agree, is these channel crossings, which are truly terrible and terribly dangerous. People should not be forced into taking
They're
those
not
terribly dangerous.
Nobody is forced to get on those boats.
There are no safe routes. What we need to have is the safe route.
They're in a safe country.
We're not expecting to do more than others, but to do the same as others.
They're in France. No one's forced to pay £5,000 to a trafficker to get on one of those boats.
And many, many more stay in France, but others will have family connections here and other reasons.
But that doesn't force them. I've got family in New York. It doesn't force me to get on a dinghy to New York.
It's an important conversation. And I said to your colleagues, there's literally something, and I'm actually literally going to miss a train.
Oh, no, you don't. You make it right. I do.
By this,
7:55 time. I know I've got to get you out. Thank you very much, Steve Crawshaw. He's from Freedom from Torture.